It's all covered in today's China Truths.
China, a nation once celebrated for its remarkable economic achievements, is now engulfed in a storm of multifaceted crises. Catastrophic floods in Hunan, crushing economic pressures from Shanghai to rural heartlands, and growing public discontent are exposing a painful truth behind the glossy propaganda of the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. The country is grappling with cracks that can no longer be concealed, from dams teetering on the brink of collapse, deserted shopping malls, to heart-rending stories of people losing homes, livelihoods, and loved ones. A vivid picture emerges of a China struggling with natural disasters, economic decline, and social unrest. Join us as we uncover the hidden truths, staggering statistics, and the tears of a nation in this special report. From June 30th to July 1st, torrential rains hit many provinces and cities in China, and the discharge of water from hydropower stations caused large-scale floods. Among them, many counties such as Xianfeng County in Hubei, Longlin County in Guangxi, Jiaotong and Yongshan in Yunnan were flooded, and a large number of farmlands and cars were washed away. There was also waterlogging in many cities such as Xianing and Haikou, causing heavy losses. It doesn't stop there. Devastating floods in Hunan, a catastrophe beyond imagination. Hunan, a central Chinese province, is enduring floods described as the worst since 1998. Relentless torrential rains have shattered historical records, transforming towns and villages into vast floodplains. The Liwei River, a major tributary of the Dongting Lake system, has surged past danger levels, with water levels at the Sanjiangkou station reaching 262 meters, 2.38 meters above the safety threshold. A terrifying flow rate of 7,300 cubic meters per second has submerged homes, swept away possessions, and claimed lives. Over 310 reservoirs in counties such as Ximen and Yuanling are at risk of overflowing, while dams like Shangnan, Dongmen, and Sanjiang have been forced to release massive water volumes to save themselves at the cost of drowning downstream communities. In Ximen County, bustling markets have been reduced to waterlogged ruins. Ms. Chen, a fruit vendor, tearfully recounted, "In just 1 hour, the floodwaters washed away goods worth over 800,000 yuan. We borrowed heavily to stock our inventory, and now we're left with nothing but debt." A major supermarket in the area, World of Fruits, reported losses exceeding 1.5 million yuan, with inventory and equipment completely destroyed. The store's owner lamented, "We worked day and night to save what we could, but the flood was too powerful. Now we're left with debts and a bleak future." The human cost, lives and livelihoods swept away. The floods have not only destroyed property, but also taken lives and left indelible scars. In Ximen County, where the Liwei River meets its Laoshan tributary, entire villages have been cut off. Without electricity, clean water, or accessible roads, residents are forced to climb to the upper floors of their homes to escape rising waters. A local posted a trembling video on social media saying, "The water has been rising for 2 days without stopping. We've moved from the first floor to the third, but it's still coming. No one has come to rescue us." A mother in Yuanling County shared her agony. "My son was swept away by the flood while trying to reach higher ground. We've searched for 3 days, but he's still missing. I don't know how to go on." In Hukou Town, Jiangdai City, the embankment along the Lu River is under severe threat. Floodwaters have inundated streets, submerging hundreds of homes. A resident recounted, "We mobilized 400 people for 6 hours to save a section of the embankment, but we failed. Our village is now just mud and cries." Such stories are all too common. In Yuanling County, a temporary bridge over the Jiangnan River collapsed under the flood's force, sending debris and rocks downstream, further devastating already battered communities. The Three Gorges Dam, a ticking time bomb at China's heart. The Three Gorges Dam, China's engineering marvel on the Yangtze River, has become a focal point of fear. Facing unprecedented pressure from floodwaters pouring in from Hunan and neighboring provinces, the dam's reservoir is at risk of overflowing. The Yangtze River's water level at the Yang station near the dam has reached 55 meters, 3 meters above the warning level, forcing authorities to release water urgently. However, this has put downstream areas, including Wuhan with its 11 million residents, at risk of severe flooding. Professor Li Ying, a hydrologist at Tsinghua University, warned the Three Gorges Dam was designed to withstand a once-in-a-century flood, but these rains exceed all predictions. If the dam fails, it would be a national catastrophe. On social media, panicked citizens shared, "If the Three Gorges Dam collapses, half of China will be underwater. Where are we supposed to go?" Controversies over the dam's operations fuel further unease. Releasing sediment-laden water during the rainy season to manage silt buildup has worsened downstream flooding, as seen in the 2024 Honghu County levee breach, which displaced thousands. Dongting Lake, the dying lung of the Yangtze. Once dubbed the lung of the Yangtze River, Dongting Lake is now in critical condition. Its surface area has dwindled from 4,200 square kilometers in 1949 to under 2,000 square kilometers due to land reclamation and silt accumulation. The levees surrounding the lake, built between the 1950s and 1970s, are at risk of collapsing under the flood's pressure. Professor Dong Zhenmin stated, "Dongting Lake can no longer regulate floods or purify water. The Three Gorges Dam's practice of storing water in the dry season and releasing muddy water during the rainy season has destroyed the lake's ecosystem. Currently, 226 levees around the lake are struggling to hold back water, but many villages below the lake's bed level have already been submerged." A resident of Honghu County said, "The government built these levees, but didn't maintain them. When the lake overflows, we're trapped like fish in a net. Last year's flood took our homes, and now we face losing everything again." Estimated damages in Hunan exceed 2 billion yuan, with the poorest households facing decades-long recovery. Meanwhile, government relief efforts have been criticized as performative, with officials appearing for photo ops before abandoning residents. The floods are not just a natural disaster but a devastating blow to an already faltering economy. In major cities like Shanghai, the permanent population has plummeted from 30 million to about 25 million, with over 380,000 people leaving in a single month. Shopping malls stand empty, and once bustling streets now resemble ghost towns. A Shanghai blogger lamented, "Qibao Old Street is deserted. Coffee shops have no customers. Shanghai, once a dream destination, is now a city of disappointment." In Hunan, small businesses devastated by floods face no hope of recovery. A shop owner in Shaoyang shared, "We borrowed 800,000 yuan to run our business, but the flood took everything. Now we're left with debt and despair." The garment industry in Henghe Township has seen widespread closures, with 80 and 90% of storefronts vacant. A street vendor in Shihu district bitterly remarked, "There are no customers anymore. Business is tougher than during the pandemic." Rising unemployment has pushed workers into gig jobs like delivery or ride-hailing, but even these sectors are now fiercely competitive. A 24-year-old university graduate in Shenzhen said, "I graduated from college, but no one will hire me. I'm in debt and can't afford rent. What am I supposed to do?" Such stories reflect a grim reality across China. Public frustration with the CCP is mounting as accusations of cover-ups and mismanagement grow. Reservoirs built shoddily in the 1950s and 1970s, dubbed Tofu projects, are collapsing under flood pressure. Dr. Chen Yi, an environmental scholar, revealed over 3,500 reservoirs in Hunan are hazardous. Built by farmers, not engineers, they can't withstand the floods. Authorities prioritizing dam preservation over human lives have released water without warnings, devastating downstream communities. On social media, citizens openly criticize the CCP. A Yuanling resident posted, "They come for relief photo ops and then leave us to drown." Charity drives are met with suspicion of corruption, with many donating just 1 yuan, commenting, "Why give money to corrupt officials?" A Shanghai blogger questioned, "The CCP boasts about Shanghai as a global metropolis, but why are the streets empty?" Why are we forced to leave? This disillusionment extends beyond cities to rural areas, where elderly residents over 60 toil selling vegetables to survive. The CCP is under growing pressure as it hides a harsh reality behind polished statistics and propaganda. China is facing a full-scale crisis, from devastating floods in Hunan and the looming risk of the Three Gorges Dam's collapse to industrial decline and mass urban exodus. Official data is often manipulated to downplay the severity. A Shanghai resident fumed, "They say everything is fine, but the streets are empty and shops are shutting down. We don't trust them anymore." Stories like a girl wearing an orange on her head to sell goods for medicine, or a father losing his son to floodwaters, reflect deep public despair. A Hunan resident said, "We once believed the CCP would protect us. Now we feel abandoned. If the dam fails, will they take responsibility?" Today's China is a bleak landscape where floods, economic decline, and social unrest intertwine, creating a full-scale crisis. The floods in Hunan have not only swept away homes and livelihoods, but exposed deep flaws in the CCP's governance. The Three Gorges Dam, once a national pride, now looms as a ticking time bomb, threatening millions downstream. Meanwhile, cities like Shanghai witness an unprecedented exodus as residents abandon urban dreams for survival in rural areas, only to face poverty and injustice there too. This is a wake-up call for a nation on the brink. Can the CCP confront these challenges, or will it continue to hide the truth with empty promises? The Chinese people, from farmers toiling in fields to unemployed graduates, are waiting for answers. Share your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for the latest updates on this unfolding crisis.
Floods are swallowing China, not just the land, but the lies it's built upon. What's drowning isn't only villages, crops, and roads. It's the myth of safety, the illusion of progress, and decades of cover-ups hidden behind polished propaganda. In province after province, Hunan, Hubei, Guizhou, Sichuan, disaster strikes with terrifying precision. Torrents of water breach brittle dams built generations ago, crashing through communities like a truth long suppressed. Families scramble to rooftops. Entire neighborhoods vanish overnight. Roads, gone. Bridges, washed away. Lifelines snapped like twigs. And it was all avoidable. Buried deep in China's forgotten archives are warnings. Ignored expert reports, risk assessments shelved in favor of GDP goals. Over 90,000 dams, many constructed during the chaos of the Great Leap Forward with shoddy materials and political pressure, now stand like tombstones of a failed system. They've held out for decades. Until now. What's collapsing isn't just infrastructure. It's trust. It's a nation's fragile faith in its own protection. In Yueyang, a shop owner sobbed as her store vanished under muddy waves. 20 years of hard work, gone in one night. We still owe 330,000 yuan. No one is coming to help. In Ximen, an entire harvest was wiped out. In Sangji, a new store drowned the day it opened. "We lost everything in hours," the owner said, "and now no one answers our calls." Behind these voices lies a brutal pattern, disaster relief that arrives late, or not at all, walls that collapse under pressure, and fake steel from Chinese suppliers making headlines abroad while the same rot eats away at home. Officials point to billion-yuan flood defense projects. On the ground, streets turned into rivers, cities into swamps. Over 420,000 people affected, 110,000 displaced, and countless others abandoned by a system that prioritized speed over safety, image over integrity. And this is just the beginning. For decades, China tried to conquer nature with concrete, but nature remembers, and now it's collecting the debt. Ancient town engulfed, China's Tofu-Dreg dams collapse. Amid relentless floods, homes reduced to rubble. Bridges snapped like twigs. What was once the serene Fubao ancient town in Lushou, Sichuan, is now a drowned relic, submerged under thick, churning floodwaters. In recent days, relentless rains have battered mainland China, triggering widespread floods across multiple provinces. But few were hit as hard as Fubao. Overnight, this historic riverside town vanished beneath muddy torrents. Drone footage captures rooftops barely peeking above water. entire streets swallowed, and debris swirling in brown, violent currents. The disaster didn't come with sirens, only silence. Residents said the flood came in the dead of night, without warning. A once-in-a-century flood submerged my home in just minutes, one survivor wrote online. By morning, the town had turned into a vast, lifeless lake. Thousands of aging dams across the region, many built decades ago with poor materials, were pushed past their breaking point. Under the weight of rising waters, Tofu-Dreg dams crumbled like cardboard, unleashing uncontrolled floods onto unsuspecting towns. What unfolded in Fubao wasn't just a natural disaster. It was a man-made failure, decades in the making, now exposed by a single night of rain. Why is China still drowning? The answer runs deeper than water. Every summer, the scenes repeat like a nightmare. Towns underwater, families stranded on rooftops, children swept away by unseen currents. And every year, the same haunting question echoes across social media and disaster zones alike. How can a country with nearly 100,000 dams still be flooded into chaos? The answer lies not just in broken concrete, but in broken decisions made decades ago. Between the 1950s and 1970s, during Mao's frantic race to industrialize, China threw up tens of thousands of dams, fast, cheap, and fatally flawed. Under the banner of the Great Leap Forward, speed mattered more than science. Political loyalty trumped engineering. Untrained workers poured concrete without blueprints. Safety checks non-existent. The result? A nation blanketed with what are now called Tofu-Dreg dams, structures as unstable as the system that created them. Warnings were there from the beginning. Visionary hydrologists like Chen Xing tried to sound the alarm in Henan. They were silenced. The cost? From 1954 to 2021, over 3,800 dams collapsed. A disaster nearly every week for 70 years. But history didn't just repeat itself, it was hidden. The 1975 Banqiao Dam catastrophe, triggered by typhoons and compounded by silence, killed over 230,000 people. One of the worst dam failures in human history. Yet for 30 years, China buried the truth to protect its image. It wasn't until 2000 that the world learned the full scale of what had happened, not from Beijing, but from survivors and foreign researchers. Fast forward to today, and the cracks are wider than ever, not just in concrete, but in public trust. In 2020, torrential rains battered Zhuozhou and Hebei province. In a calculated move, authorities flooded the entire city to protect Beijing, the capital. No evacuation, no warning, just water. Locals returned to ruins and asked, why must the countryside drown to keep the capital dry? Meanwhile, even China's crown jewel, the Three Gorges Dam, faces doubt. Billed as the ultimate flood defense, it failed to prevent mass flooding in 2020 that affected 54 million people. Officials insisted it worked as intended. But for villagers watching their homes sink beneath muddy rivers, words meant little. The system, it seems, has learned little. Today, over 3,800 dams are at critical risk of collapse, many already past their intended lifespan. Over 33,000 haven't even had basic safety inspections. And the few that do get maintenance often suffer from corruption, falsified reports, or delayed repairs. When floodwaters rise, the government's instinct isn't always to help, but to hide. After the 2008 Sichuan earthquake, billions in donations vanished into bureaucracy. Survivors waited in tents while aid spoiled in warehouses. The Red Cross of China became a symbol not of hope, but betrayal. No wonder many Chinese citizens have stopped waiting for help. Volunteers now carry supplies themselves, wading into flood zones with food and medicine. We don't trust anyone anymore, one man said. If we don't act, no one will. This isn't just a climate crisis. It's a reckoning with history, with hubris, and with a regime that built more walls than it ever repaired. China's flooding tragedy isn't just about rain. It's about the weight of forgotten warnings, aging infrastructure, and a system that too often protects power over people. And as storms grow fiercer, the question is no longer when the next disaster will strike, but how many more lives will be sacrificed to preserve the lie of control.
Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We will keep reporting on the COVID surge in China, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to get the latest videos. And thank you for tuning in.